My mom laughed the night my house burned down. Not a nervous laugh, not a shocked laugh. A real satisfied smile as the flames ate through my little duplex in East Austin. I was standing on the sidewalk barefoot in an oversized t-shirt, still shaking from the fire alarm, when my family pulled up like they were arriving at a show. I am Rachel Carter. I am 29. And that was the moment I realized I was never really part of their perfect family brand. I was just the background character they could blame when things went wrong. My mom looked at the smoke, tilted her head and said, almost cheerfully, "Finally, karma torched the trash." My dad folded his arms and added, "You brought this on yourself. Some people are just cursed." They did not ask if I was okay. They did not ask if I had shoes or a place to sleep. They filmed. They took pictures with the fire trucks behind them, snapping selfies like it was some edgy photo shoot, joking about captions and hashtags while everything I owned turned into black ash. One of them even said, "This is what happens when you walk away from family," as if the fire was some moral lesson they had ordered from the universe. I did not scream. I did not cry in front of them. I did not give them a scene to post. I just stared at the phone in my mom's hand, memorized the sound of their laughter over the crackling wood, then turned around, ordered a rideshare, and left them standing there with their content. 1 year later, I came back into their lives without flames, without gasoline, without touching a single match, and still managed to watch their carefully curated world burn without me. If you want to know how the Cursed One became the only person who could have saved them, and why I chose not to, stay with me until the end. I grew up in the Carter family, where everything was a scoreboard, and someone was always performing for an audience, even when no one was watching. My mom, Diana, built an entire online brand around being a relatable, perfect mom, posting polished kitchen shots and Sunday family dinners like we were a sitcom that never got messy. My dad, Patrick, ran a small home renovation business and liked to talk about hustle and personal responsibility, the kind of man who would say no excuses while ignoring his own unread bills in a pile on the counter. My older sister Sophie lived for aesthetics, planning weddings and events, posting reels of champagne toasts and fairy lights while writing captions about intentional living. My younger brother Evan was constantly chasing the next shortcut to success, flipping used electronics, trading crypto, always one big move away from making it, always one bad week away from asking someone to bail him out. In their stories, they were all main characters. I was the one behind the scenes making sure the numbers added up. I moved out as soon as I could, trading their crowded suburban house for a small duplex in East Austin where I could hear myself think. I worked in financial operations for a tech startup, which is a fancy way of saying I spent my days making sure other people did not set their money on fire. Ironically, the only place where people treated my skills like they were disposable was at home. Mom would send me screenshots of her brand deals and say, "Can you just skim this? It is so boring." Dad handed me receipts in grocery bags and muttered, "Just make sure the IRS stays happy, all right?" Sophie would shove her laptop at me, open to a wedding budget, and complain, "These numbers make my head hurt. Can you fix it so it looks cute but not terrifying?" Evan spammed me with, "Hey, quick question" texts that were never quick and always ended in, "I'll pay you back next month." I told them I did not mind helping, and at first I meant it. It felt good to be useful, to be the calm one who could untangle the mess. But they never learned. They never tried. They treated me like an app they could open when things got complicated and close as soon as it was handled. I got tired of forgetting what I had done for who and when they had promised to pay me back, or at least say thank you, so one night I opened a fresh Notion page and called it Family Balance. Every time I fixed a tax form for my dad, I logged it. Every time I reworked a wedding budget for Sophie, I logged it. Every time I set up automatic bill pay or a medical reminder for my mom, Every time I tracked a loan or reorganized a spreadsheet for Evan, I logged it. Not because I wanted to invoice them, but because I needed proof that I was not crazy for feeling drained. On camera, we were the Carters, a strong, united family chasing big dreams. Off camera, I was the invisible safety net under everyone else's tightrope. And the night my house burned and they laughed, all of those little favors suddenly stopped feeling so little. The morning after the fire, I woke up in a cheap hotel off the highway, staring at a popcorn ceiling and trying to remember which parts of my life were still real and which had turned into smoke. My phone was the first thing I checked, out of habit. There were no missed calls asking if I was okay, but there were notifications. A text from Evan with a blurry photo of my burned duplex still taped off, emoji flames lined up under it, and the caption, "Home Sweet Home?" A screenshot from Sophie's Instagram story someone forwarded to me, a brunch table with mimosas and avocado toast. Her caption, "Some people burn bridges and then act surprised when they have nowhere to go." Mom's feed had a carousel of cozy family night photos from the evening before, like she had not said what she said while my house was literally burning. The comments were full of goals and "love this family," and I had to put my phone face down on the nightstand because I thought I might throw it at the wall. I checked my email instead. The fire department report, the insurance claim forms, cold, necessary things I knew how to deal with. I took a deep breath, ordered bad hotel coffee, opened my laptop, and slipped into the mode I always use to save other people. Calm, methodical, detached. I uploaded photos, filled out fields, attached documents, sent follow-up emails. While my family pointed and laughed on social media, I was the one doing the boring, grown-up work of rebuilding. No one offered me a couch. No one suggested I come stay until I got back on my feet. Not even the people who loved to preach about family first on camera. A coworker from the startup, someone I had only grabbed lunch with a couple of times, sent a simple text. "Hey, heard about the fire. If you need a place to crash or help with paperwork, I'm here." I felt more seen by that one message than by my entire bloodline. Within a week, the insurance adjuster had my claim moving. Within 2 weeks, I had found a small studio in South Congress with thin walls and creaky floors, but a lock and a door that no one in my family had a key to. On my first night there, surrounded by borrowed furniture and boxes that smelled faintly of smoke, I opened my laptop and pulled up the family balance page. I scrolled past lines and lines of entries, tax returns fixed, budgets rebuilt, loans tracked, reminders scheduled. Under all of that, I added a new section and titled it, "The Fire." I wrote down everything, like a ledger entry. Date, time, what was lost, what was said. Mom. Finally, karma torched the trash. Dad, you brought this on yourself. Some people are just cursed. Family. Laughed, took pictures, left. Under notes, I typed, "No one offered help. Rebuilt alone." Then I stared at the screen and realized something that made my stomach flip more than the flames had. If I listed out everything I did for them over the years, and everything they had done for me, the balance was not just off, it was upside down. They acted like I was the cursed one, the weak link, the problem. But without me quietly holding their finances, their schedules, their plans together, their version of perfect would not last a month. That thought did not feel like revenge yet. It felt like a seed. A quiet question growing in the back of my mind. If they could stand there and laugh while my life burned, why was I still making sure theirs did not? A few months after the fire, my life started to look normal again on the surface. I had my tiny South Congress studio, a new routine, a stack of fresh spreadsheets at work that had nothing to do with my family. But they didn't stay quiet for long. One night, our family group chat lit up with a meme Evan dropped in. A dumpster on fire with confetti photoshopped over it, captioned, "Rachel's housewarming party." Sophie replied with laughing emojis and wrote, "Careful, she might burn the Wi-Fi next." My mom sent back, "Don't be mean," then followed it with, "Remember, we don't say that in public." Like the only real problem was the risk of someone screenshotting it. On my birthday, Sophie texted in the chat, "Happy birthday, sis. No candles this year, right?" And added a cake gif with exploding fireworks. No one asked how my new place was. No one asked if I wanted to get dinner. They were treating what happened to me like a running joke, something they could pull out whenever a conversation needed a punchline. At the same time, they still leaned on me like nothing had changed. My dad forwarded an email from his accountant with the subject line, "Urgent, missing documents," and wrote, "Can you make sense of this? I've got too many jobs going on to deal with this nonsense." Sophie messaged me separately, attaching her wedding budget spreadsheet and saying, "This planner I hired is useless. Can you clean this up before I send it to the venue? I'll owe you one." Evan sent me a picture of his bank account balance and his crypto app asking, "If I sell this now and pay off this card, will I still have enough to restock next month?" Mom called one afternoon, voice sweet. "I got this letter about my insurance and some lab work. Can you log in and just handle it? I hate those portals. They're so confusing." It was like the fire never happened in their minds. I was still the family's walking calculator, scheduler, and crisis hotline. The only thing that felt different was me. I started noticing the pattern every time they reached for me. They never said please, never said thank you, never asked if I had time. It was assumed. It was expected. One Sunday, I ran into my mom at Whole Foods. She had a cart full of organic produce and a camera in her hand, talking into her phone about resetting for the week. When she saw me, she brightened like it was a photo op. "Rachel, you should come by for Sunday dinner," she said. "It's been too long. The followers keep asking why you're never in the videos." I told her I was busy. Her smile faltered. "You're missing out on family memories," she said quietly, as if my absence was the problem, not the way they had stood by my burning home and laughed. Later that week, Sophie's fiancé, Mark, messaged me privately. "Hey, I know they joke a lot," he wrote. "And yeah, they went too far the night of the fire. I'm not defending that. But Soph really needs your help with the wedding stuff. She's overwhelmed." I stared at the message for a long time, feeling that familiar pull between wanting to help and wanting to protect myself. I did send Sophie a few quick fixes on her spreadsheet, then logged the time in Family Balance with a new tag, "After Fire." The more I scrolled through that page, the more it looked like a mirror held up to our family dynamic. They called me cursed, but I was the one keeping their bills straight, their events on budget, their healthcare scheduled, their side hustles afloat. And now they were using my worst night as a meme while still expecting me to save them from every boring detail they did not want to handle. The joke was starting to sound less funny, at least to me. To them, though, I was still the punchline and the backup plan rolled into one. Around the 1-year mark after the fire, I realized my life had split into two timelines. There was before the fire, where I still tried to believe my family would show up for me the way I always showed up for them. And there was after the fire, where I had video proof in my head of them smiling in front of my burning house like it was a backdrop. That anniversary crept up in a way I did not expect. I did not plan to mark it. I was just trying to get through another week of work and cheap takeout in my little studio. Then Sophie posted something on Instagram that hit me like a slap. It was a picture of her and Evan at a rooftop bar, city skyline glowing behind them, captioned, "1 year since we let go of toxic energy and started living for real. Some bridges are better burned." Evan commented with a fire emoji. My mom commented, "Proud of our growth." My dad dropped a thumbs up. No one said my name, but they did not have to. I was the bridge. I was the toxic energy. They burned my life down, literally and metaphorically. and somehow twisted it into a self-help quote about their healing. I sat on my couch, phone in my hand, and felt something harden in my chest. It was not fresh hurt anymore. It was clarity. I opened my laptop, went to Notion, and clicked on Family Balance. The page loaded a wall of entries stretching back years. At the top, I had the usual categories: Dad's taxes, Mom's medical, Sophie's weddings, Evan's loans. Under that, I had added the fire months ago, but I had not really looked at the rest as a whole. That night, I did. I filtered by each name. For my dad, there were dozens of entries. Set up expense tracking for renovation business, filed quarterly taxes, fixed misclassified income, cleaned up unpaid invoices, sent reminders. Every single one was work that he would have had to pay a professional for, but he had tossed it to me with a shrug and a, "You're good with numbers, right?" For my mom, the log showed every time I had dealt with insurance portals, rescheduled lab work, negotiated with a billing office, reviewed a brand contract. I remembered her saying, "Just make sure it's not a scam." I don't have time to read all that, while posting about taking charge of your life in the same breath. For Sophie, the entries were a patchwork of other people's celebrations and her own. Build budget for Johnson wedding, fix overages, create payment schedule for vendors, rework Sophie's wedding budget after venue change. I was the one who knew which deposits were refundable, which weren't, and how close she was to overspending. For Evan, the list was a string of small but constant emergencies. Track loan for restock, run numbers on crypto sell versus hold, pay minimum on credit card from my account, log as loan, due date next month. Every time he had promised, "I'll square up when I can," and every time the when moved further away. Looking at it all laid out, I saw what I really was to them. Not a sister, not a daughter, a system, a free service, the invisible infrastructure under their curated lives. Without me, my dad would have to face the IRS alone. My mom would have to actually read the contracts she signed and keep track of her own appointments. Sophie's dream wedding would have a real price tag attached to it that she could not ignore. Evan's next big flip would finally hit the wall of reality instead of bouncing into my bank account. The thought scared me and thrilled me at the same time. Because if that was true, then I held more power than I had ever let myself believe. They had called the fire karma. They had stood on the curb and laughed while my home collapsed. And then they had kept using me as if nothing happened, as if their words were nothing but smoke. I could not control the fire that destroyed my duplex. I could not change who they chose to be that night. But I could control access to my skills, access to my time, access to the safety net they had come to see as their right. So I made a decision. I was done being the silent backbone of their lives. I was done saving people who would not even offer me a spare blanket when I was standing in front of my own ashes. I opened a new section in Family Balance and titled it Exit Plan. Under it, I wrote out steps like I was drafting a project for work. Step 1, identify every account, login, subscription, and spreadsheet I touched for them. Step 2, transfer ownership back, with proper notice, and remove my access. Step 3, stop giving loans, regardless of the sob story. Step 4, stop fixing problems no one even says thank you for fixing. It was not about sabotaging anything. I would not add errors or delete records. I would document, hand it back, and walk away. They wanted to believe the universe had punished me for walking away from my family. Fine. Let them see what actually happens when I walk away. They talked about karma like it was a fire that only burned people they did not like. What they forgot is that you cannot stack your whole life on top of someone else and then act surprised when it collapses the second they step out from under it. I did not start by blowing anything up. I started with a message in the family group chat that looked almost boring. Hey, I wrote, fingers steady over my phone. I need you all to know I'll be stepping back from handling any of your finances, paperwork, or accounts. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to transfer everything back into your hands and remove my access. I won't be available to fix tax issues, budgets, loans, or medical portals anymore. You'll have everything you need. After that, you'll have to manage it yourselves. I watched the typing bubbles appear and disappear. Evan was first. Lowell, what? You mad or something? Sophie followed. Is this about a meme? Come on, Rachel. My mom sent, we can talk about this at dinner. Don't make big decisions over text. My dad stayed quiet for a long time, then finally wrote, do whatever you feel you need to, but remember, family should be there for each other. I almost laughed at that one. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just replied, this is me not being there in that way anymore. Put my phone down and got to work. The next day, I logged into my dad's accounting software. I exported every report, reconciled what I could, and created a simple summary document. What was due, when it was due, who he needed to pay, and which forms had to go to the IRS. I attached it all in an email to him with clear subject lines and instructions even a stranger could follow. Then I went into settings, changed the admin email from mine to his, removed my own access, and logged out. A few hours later, my phone buzzed. Why did I just get an email about logging into this thing? He texted. Because it's yours now, I replied. Everything's up to date as of today. After this, you'll need to manage it or hire someone. He sent back, you're overreacting. Like that was an argument that could change the login credentials. With my mom, it was messier, but not complicated. I had every one of her medical portals bookmarked, every password saved. I went through and printed a list of her upcoming appointments, any outstanding bills, and the instructions to reset her own password. I emailed it all to her with, here's everything you need to manage your health accounts on your own. I'm removing my logins. Then I turned off every reminder on my phone that said, Mom lab work, or Mom follow up. When she called that evening, her voice was tight. Why are you doing this now? She asked. You know I hate that stuff. I kept my tone even. Because it's your health, Mom. You should be the one in charge of it. You talk about taking control of your life all the time. This is part of that. There was a pause, then a frustrated sigh. You're being dramatic over a house that was insured, she snapped. I almost reminded her of the words she had chosen that night, but I stopped myself. You do not convince people like that with memories. You just step away. Sophie took it the hardest. Her entire wedding existed as a series of contracts, invoices, and spreadsheets I had touched. I opened her wedding budget file, cleaned it one last time, added notes in the comments about what was paid, what was pending, and what dates could not be missed. I forwarded all the vendor chains back to her email with, you'll want to keep these organized. I'm taking myself off the threads after this. Then I removed my email from the shared documents and the vendor contact lists. 10 minutes later, my phone rang with her name flashing. I let it go to voicemail. Rachel, what are you doing? She said, her voice high and tight. You can't just drop everything. The venue needs final numbers. The florist is waiting on payment. I don't understand any of this, you know that. You're literally sabotaging my wedding right now. Call me back. I didn't. Instead, I logged into the last category, Evan's chaos. I pulled up the spreadsheet where I had tracked every dollar I'd floated him, every short-term loan that turned into a long-term joke. The total made my stomach twist. I exported it, saved it, and then typed one simple text. I'm not sending any more money, Ev. Ever. Attached is a list of what you already owe me. I'm not chasing you for it. I'm just done adding to it. He replied almost instantly. Come on, Rach, don't be like that. I'm about to flip this inventory and then I'll be good. I just need one more bridge. I stared at the screen. then shut my phone off for an hour. When I turned it back on, there were more messages. Seriously? Over a fire you got paid out for? That's cold. You know I count on you. Family doesn't just cut family off. The irony of that line would have been funny if it didn't sting so much. As I executed my exit plan piece by piece, their reactions rolled in. Confusion, annoyance, guilt, trips about loyalty. No one said, "We're sorry we laughed at you." No one said, "We were wrong." They weren't upset about what they had done. They were upset that I was finally responding to it. Within a week, the cracks started to show. Dad texted me a photo of an IRS notice saying something about missing forms and penalties. "What is this?" he wrote. "It's what I've been warning you about for 2 years," I answered. "You'll need to call them or hire someone. I'm not your bookkeeper." Sophie blew up my phone with screenshots of vendor emails stacking up in her inbox, asking for payments and confirmations. "I don't know what this means," she wrote. "Just tell me what to say back." I typed out a response and then deleted it. Instead, I replied, "You need to read your contracts or talk to your planner." I stepped back. "Remember?" My mom called one night midweek, breathless. "I missed a lab appointment because no one reminded me," she said accusingly. "They charged me a fee." I let the silence sit for a beat. "That's frustrating," I said finally. "You might want to put it in your own calendar app. Everyone forgets sometimes." As for Evan, his messages shifted from charm to anger. "Thanks, now I can't restock," he wrote. "You're screwing me over." But the truth was, he had been screwing himself over for years. I had just stopped cushioning the fall. I did not post about any of it. I did not subtweet or make a petty TikTok. I went to work, came home, cooked my cheap meals, and updated family balance one more time. Under Exit Plan, I checked off each step I had completed. Next to the final box, I typed, "All responsibilities returned." Then I added a note under the fire. 1 year later, the only thing I burned was access. It felt like closing a loop I hadn't realized was still open. They once stood in front of my house and watched my life turn to ash like it was entertainment. Now they were standing in the middle of their own slow, invisible fire, lit by years of laziness and entitlement, and the one person who knew exactly how to put it out was no longer answering their calls. The calls didn't slow down once I stepped back. They multiplied. At first, it was little things, like my dad forwarding another IRS notice with, "This looks bad. Can you just walk me through it over the phone?" When I replied, "I told you I'm not handling this anymore. You need a CPA," he called instead. I let it ring. He left a voicemail talking about how, after everything he'd done for me, I could at least pick up and explain a few numbers. He never once mentioned the night of the fire. Sophie's messages shifted from demanding to panicked. "The venue says if I don't pay the balance by Friday, I lose the date," she wrote. "The photographer wants a second payment, and I thought that was already covered. These contracts don't make sense. This is literally what you do. Why are you abandoning me?" I stared at the word abandoning for a long time. It was almost funny. The person they had abandoned on a sidewalk in front of a burning house was now the one being accused of leaving them behind. My mom's tone changed too. The influencer voice got replaced with something rawer when she called late one night, and I accidentally answered before I saw her name. "Rachel," she said, and there was not a camera anywhere near her. I missed another appointment. I double-booked a brand shoot and a specialist follow-up, and the doctor's office charged me for canceling last minute. The insurance portal is a mess. I can't keep track of this. I took a breath. "You can," I said quietly. "You'll have to. You talk about taking control of your life all the time." She went quiet for a second. Then her voice sharpened. "This is ridiculous. You're punishing us because your apartment burned and you got an insurance payout. You're holding a grudge." I felt something inside me click into place. "No," I said. I'm responding to how you treated me when my life was on fire. There's a difference. I hung up before she could turn it into a speech about forgiveness for the sake of her followers. Evan was the one who snapped first. He cornered me outside a coffee shop near my office, stepping in front of me as I walked out with my drink. "You're really not going to help me?" he said, eyes wide, like he still couldn't believe I meant it. "I've got inventory sitting in my living room and no cash to flip it. If I don't sell soon, I'm done. You know that." I shifted my cup to one hand and looked at him. "You were done the day you decided my wallet was part of your business model," I said. "I'm not your investor. I'm your sister." He scoffed. "Sisters help each other. You're acting brand new because you had a bad month." I thought about the smoke in my lungs, the hotel ceiling, the Notion page full of all the times I had saved him from his own choices. "I didn't have a bad month, Evan," I said. "I had a house fire and a family who treated it like content. And this isn't new. This is me finally catching up to reality." His jaw tightened. "You're going to regret this when nobody's there for you," he threw over his shoulder as he walked away. The irony sat heavy in the air between us. Weeks turned into a couple of months, and the consequences of my exit plan started stacking up on their side of the fence. My dad lost a longtime client after missing a licensing renewal he'd always counted on me to flag. My mom posted less often, then started alluding vaguely to health issues and stress, carefully avoiding the fact that half the stress came from late fees and missed appointments she used to hand off to me. Sophie's wedding, the one she had curated on Pinterest boards and mood boards for years, quietly changed from a big ballroom event to a smaller backyard ceremony for intimate vibes only. I knew enough about her budget to recognize the spin. There were vendors she could no longer afford because deposit schedules had been ignored. She sent me one last message the week she scaled it down. "You win," she wrote. "My wedding is ruined. I hope you're happy." I typed and deleted my first 3 responses. Then I finally answered. "I don't win because your wedding is smaller, Sophie. I win because I stopped letting you treat me like a tool instead of a person. If you wanted my help, you should have acted like I mattered before everything fell apart." She never replied. My mom tried a different angle. She showed up at my studio one evening unannounced, eyes already shiny. "Rachel, we need to talk," she said as soon as I opened the door. "Your father is stressed. Your brother is struggling. Your sister is humiliated. This family is falling apart. Is that what you wanted?" I didn't invite her in. We stood in the hallway under the dull yellow light. "No," I said. "What I wanted was a family who didn't laugh when my house burned down." Her face hardened. "We handled that badly," she said quickly, like she was swatting at a fly. "But holding on to one night for this long, letting it destroy everything, that's on you. You're choosing to let bitterness burn this family to the ground." I felt the anger rise, hot and sharp, but I also felt something steadier behind it. "You call it bitterness," I said. "I call it boundaries. I didn't set the fire at my duplex. I didn't make you pose in front of it. I didn't post quotes about letting go of toxic energy a year later. That was you. All I did was step out of a role I never agreed to. Your unpaid accountant, therapist, assistant, and scapegoat." She blinked, caught off guard by the word. "Scapegoat?" "Yeah," I said. "Every time something went wrong, it was my fault for moving out, for saying no, for not playing along with the perfect family story. When the universe handed you a fire, you decided it was proof I was cursed, not a wake-up call about how you treat people. I'm not carrying that for you anymore." For a second, I thought she might actually apologize. I saw something crack in her expression. But then she straightened her shoulders, like she was in front of a camera again. "Someday you'll regret pushing us away," she said. "Family is all you have in the end." I looked at her and realized that might be true for some people, But it wasn't true for me. Family was not all I had. I had a job I was good at. Friends who checked in without needing a crisis to feel close. A tiny, quiet apartment that was mine, with a lock they did not control. I had my own name, my own life, my own balance sheet, finally separated from theirs. In the end, I said calmly, all you really have is the way you treated the people who trusted you. That's what comes back. I closed the door gently, not slammed, and leaned against it for a moment, feeling my heart pound. That was the last big confrontation. After that, the noise died down. The texts came less often. The calls eventually stopped. Birthdays passed with no messages either way. On social media, the Carters rebranded without me. Smaller dinners. Learning to embrace the messy seasons. A simple, heartfelt wedding surrounded by those who matter most. Behind every caption, I could read the missing pieces, but it wasn't my job to fill them in anymore. In my own life, things got quieter and better. I budgeted my own money, not theirs, saved for things I wanted, took a weekend trip without asking anyone for permission or trying to rearrange someone else's chaos first. I still used Family Balance, but I changed the name at the top to My Balance. The old entries stayed as a reminder of what I'd carried. New entries tracked different things: therapy sessions, miles run, time spent with people who didn't ask me to shrink to make them comfortable. People online love revenge stories where the villain ends up broke, exposed, or begging in public. But the real revenge in my story wasn't about seeing my family crash. It was about watching them finally face the consequences of a life built on entitlement and image, without me quietly holding everything together behind the scenes. It was about knowing that when their world started to burn, I wasn't the one holding the extinguisher anymore. If you've ever been the person everyone leans on until you break, the responsible one, the strong one, the cursed one, who somehow always gets blamed, I want you to hear this part clearly. You are allowed to step away. You are allowed to stop fixing problems for people who laugh when you're the one in trouble. You are allowed to set boundaries, even with blood, especially with blood. My mom laughed when my house burned down. 1 year later, their world started collapsing without me. Not because I set it on fire, but because I stopped putting out flames I didn't start. That is what karma really looked like in my life. Not the universe punishing me for walking away from my family, but the universe finally letting them feel what it's like to live without the person they took for granted. And for the first time, I wasn't standing in the smoke. I was watching it from a safe distance, breathing clean air, finally free.